Undoubtedly, useEffect hook stands out as one of the most crucial hooks in React.js. However, mastering it can be very tricky, especially when dealing with asynchronous tasks and timers and dealing with the dependencies array where most of the time beginners encounter issues like infinite renders. So without a solid understanding, your code will end up with subtle bugs. So in this video, we will delve into the details of useEffect hook, ensuring that you gain the expertise needed to wield it seamlessly. So stick with us throughout the video and you will get the confidence to utilize useEffect hook in your project flawlessly. Hello everyone, my name is Bilal Zamani. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we will learn everything about useEffect hook. But don't worry, I will break it down into simple terms so you can easily understand it and use it in your projects. So without any ado, let's jump right into the coding. I have already written some code here. So first let's check out this code. So here I have a simple component, a use state, and then a handle click function. And there are three buttons down there. So on handle click, I'm simply setting the active button whatever I am getting in the handle click function. So let's say active button is equal to button 1, then I'm setting these colors. If it is not, then background to gray. So on click, I'm calling a handle click. So whenever I click the button, its value is being set to the active button. So whenever I click the button, the background changes. So first let's import the useEffect hook. So what's the useEffect? useEffect simply a React.js function which helps us to handle side effect in functional components. So let's use it. It accepts two parameters. First one is a function and the second one is a array. So for now we will only use function because array is optional, and after learning the function we will run the array. So when this function runs, let's console log the value here, useEffect. Let's see when this function runs and refresh it. When the component is mounted, it runs 2 times. After that, whenever the state changes, it means the component will re-render. So whenever the component will re-render, this useEffect will also run if there is no dependency array. So you must be thinking what's different between using running logic outside the useEffect and inside the useEffect. They are a little different. If there is no dependency array, and you might be thinking there is it's same, but useEffect runs after the JSX is rendered on the browser. But this console log will run before the JSX is rendered on the browser. So there's a little bit different here. So let's check out the dependencies array. And let's check out this when this function will run. After adding dependency array, when useEffect will run. So when the component is mounted, it runs 2 times. After that, if we change state, it will not run. It will only run when the component is mounted if the dependency array is empty. So after that, we can also give this dependency array a value. We are giving the active button. So now whenever the active button will change, this function will run. So on the first try, it will run 2 times. After that, whenever we will change the value, it will run. See, simple. So there is also a function here, cleanup function. There is also a cleanup function. It runs after the when useEffect is called the second time. Before the second time is it runs, before that it runs the cleanup function, or when the component is unmounted, this also runs on that time. We cannot check the when the component is unmounted if it runs, but it runs. But we cannot, but we can check this for now when the component is runs when the useEffect runs second times. Let's see. On first time use effect run. After when the second time it runs, before that the cleanup function run. After that the use effect, after that use effect fired. So it will be clear to you after we use it for calling the API. So for now we are going to fetch some API and then use it and use effect. We are going to use a async function here. So fetch data async. We will use await here because it's a promise. Here's a simple website which have many free APIs. You can use it in your project. For now we will use only this API. And then change the value result response.json. After that changes to string. And then set it to the data. Okay, we have to create another state. We will store that data which we are fetching. Here we will set the data here. Okay, result string, and then show this data here. So now this will fetch the data when the component, when we refresh the component. Okay, it's imperative. We have made a mistake here. Okay, we have to use await here because it's a promise. We are getting some values from this API. So now what we want to do, we want to fetch the data, different data on each button. So let's change the button name. Active button, we will API key here. Okay, whatever name, don't know, API key. Okay, set API key. After that, by default we are going to use get and change use here. And we are going
set.
Now let's set this data here, set API key. And we also have to make some changes here. So we are sending the value button names, but now we are changing the value here. Let's name it kids also, and kids here, and name here dog. After that, okay, active button key API.
Okay.
Now it should run now. and we also have to change here. Okay, now whenever we change the value, this API will fetch the different value depending on this API key. So if we click on the cats, the handle click function will set this value to API key, and then here will be API key. So if we click on the dogs, it will fetch the different value. Okay, whenever we clicking on the button, it's fetching the different API. So but here but we can improve this function. Here we can use cleanup function here. And first we have to make an useRef variable object const is mounted equal to useRef, and for now let's make it true. You don't have to pass this useRef because it does not affect on the useEffect. If it changes, it will not run. This useEffect will not run even if it changes. So first we have to make it true. dot current. After that we will check here. If it's true, only then set the data. Is mounted dot true. Is mounted dot current. Then we'll simply set the data. If it is not if current is not true, then we are not setting this here, and we have to make it false here. So I'll tell you what's happening here. So when this promise runs, it might be running if I even close the component. Component is no more being used, but this async function is still sending the promise. So it is still running. It may set the value here. Even this I am no more using this component. Even for example, if some components are being used here, some of them are calling the API calls, but when I change the component, there might be sending the fetching the API, fetching the data from API. So to solve this issue, we will check if only is mounted current is true, then change the set data. If it is not, then do not change the data, because when we remove the component, when the component is unmounted, this will change the mounted current value will change to the false. Then we no longer will set then no longer we can set this data here. So it's simple. Normally people do not use it, but it's wrong to not use it like this. And then there's also simple, we can also use set timeout, set timer, set interval. Okay, use here set interval. This function also accepts two parameters. First one is a function, and the second one is a milliseconds. So it will, depending on the what we provide here, it will run on every 100,000 milliseconds. So first let's console log here anything. And remove it from here. So it's running 2 times, because as I told you, this useEffect runs 2 times when when the component is mounted. So it's set it 2 intervals. When the 2 interval is set, it's running, this console.log is running 2 times. To fix this issue, we can use the clear interval. Okay, first we have to create the interval. Okay, simply name it interval, and then this uses cleanup function, and in this cleanup function we will clear the interval. So now it will run only per hundreds per thousands millisecond one time. It means a second, so it's running one time per second. If you don't know about cleanup function, you might get in bugs when you are coding. You might encounter some very bad bugs. So you can also create a counter here. Count. Okay, don't rename it, just set it here. Okay, remove this pre-tag. It will show time error. And what's happening here? This string. Now it will add one. So, and also make it a little bit bigger. So you can also create timer here. Some people, beginners mostly, provide here state when they are creating a counter, and they use this data. So when they use this data, they encounter infinite renders. It's not a best way to do it. So whenever you want to change the state depending on its previous state, always use its old state to change the state. So that's it for today. And there you have it, the everything about useEffect hook. If this was helpful, consider giving it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more straightforward coding tips. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.